In 2025, Canada heads to the polls, and the voices of GTA Muslims matter more than ever. We're the fastest growing population in the Greater Toronto Area, and we're bringing our values, concerns, and hopes to the ballot box. From global justice to local struggles, housing, Islamophobia, foreign policy, the issues affecting Muslims are on the front lines. Introducing GTA Muslims Today, your go-to source for exclusive federal election 2025 coverage. Watch GTA Muslims Today, only on Muslim Network TV.
We are live from our Toronto studios. Assalamu alaikum. This is Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. We are bringing you live coverage throughout the day about the elections that are taking place today. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for a lot of very exclusive information about our elections. I am Ahmed Ramadan.
And I'm Aisha Ashraf, and you're watching Muslim News TV. Stay tuned for the latest news emerging from key ridings in the GTA.
So before we get started, I wanted to thank all our viewers over the last few weeks. We have been throughout the city bringing you exclusive interviews with candidates, with organization leaders, with members of the community and voters, and talking to them about what matters to you this election cycle. So we really appreciate all of your support and all of you tuning in. I wanted to also add, please comment in our comment section, and we will be answering questions from the viewers throughout the day. So stay tuned for that. Now, if Mark Carney's Liberals hope to win a fourth term, they must dominate in Toronto and the GTA, where there are 55 ridings and over 4.5 million voters that are in play. The region has been a Liberal stronghold since 2015. However, Conservatives are pushing hard to break through. These efforts are particularly strong in suburban battlegrounds like Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill, and Milton East Halton Hills South. A key flashpoint is Toronto's St. Paul's, where the Conservatives shocked the Liberals in a 2023 by-election. The New Democratic Party's best shot at a Toronto comeback is in Taikaiko in Parkdale High Park. From Burlington to Bowmanville, 10 competitive ridings will be pivotal on election night.
In today's election, Ontario seats will be playing a major role. In the past 50 years, the party winning the most seats in Ontario has also formed the federal government. Tonight, we will be seeing whether the trend still continues. In Ontario, there are 122 seats. The figure is more than one-third of all ridings in Canada. In the last federal election, Ontario voted for 78 Liberals and 37 Conservatives. Since then, Ontario has gained an extra seat in the recent redistribution of electoral boundaries. In the quick 5-week campaign, leaders in Ontario, particularly the 905 region and some battleground ridings, have been canvassing hard to win voters.
Government data from 2017 shows nearly 12% of Mississauga voters identify as Muslim. Local faith groups say the figure has considerably increased since then, making the Muslim votes significant for a win. Interviews with random Mississauga voters have revealed their top concerns. Key issues include rising costs of living and inflation. Residents are also worried about the tariff threats and want leaders to stand up to Trump. Voters want politicians to make policies that support the middle class. They are calling for affordable housing, improved healthcare, and economic opportunities.
U.S. President Donald Trump is suggesting that Canadians should vote for him today when they go to the polls. In a post on his social media site, Truth Social, Trump wrote, "Good luck to the great people of Canada." He then advised Canadians to choose a leader who would cut taxes in half and provide other perks only if Canada becomes US's 51st state. Trump's tariffs have dominated the federal election as major parties position themselves ready to tackle the economic worries stemming from south of the border.
As Canadians head to polls, our thoughts are with the victims of the Vancouver attack. This comes as a driver rammed his truck into a Filipino festival Saturday night, killing 11 people and injuring many others. British Columbia's health ministry says 32 people were seen at several hospitals in the Lower Mainland and 17 remain in care, including some in serious condition. Police have charged a 30-year-old Vancouver man with 8 counts of second-degree murder. They say more charges are expected once all the victims have been identified. Now we're going to be going to a live, our live correspondent.
You're on live.
Brother Mais, can you hear us?
Brother Ahmed, I can hear you. Assalamu alaikum. Is everything good? Is the mic check good? Can you hear us? Can you see us okay?
Wa alaikum assalam. We could see you great.
Lovely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So we're reporting live from Mississauga City Center right now. And with this beautiful weather, the vibes are amazing. Everyone is talking about voting. And everyone is curious to know who is going to be the elected party that will fight the most common voter concerns. We're talking tariff threats. We're talking cost of living, of course, inflation, and also the increasing crime rate. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that Mississauga has a massive Muslim population that makes up 17% of the voters. And in this community right now, liberals and conservatives are the favorite with 4 seats already in their timeline. So that's where we're standing right now. Right back at you, brother.
So, Brother Mais, just for the next clip, please make sure that your camera is landscape, not portrait. It just comes out better for our live broadcast. So right now we will be going to some of the exclusive interviews that we had done in this area.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Muslim Network TV and you're watching GTN Muslims Today. I'm your host, Moeez Rahman. Today we're reporting live from Mississauga City Center where I have the great pleasure of having an exclusive chat with Faris El Saud. And not only does he have the world's biggest smile, he has so many things in motion to ensure that our way of living is only going to get improved when he's elected. Faris, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you
today.
for having me, Mo, as always.
But it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. We just had caffeine. We're ready to talk.
We're good to
But
go.
before we get into the main details, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Faris El Saud. I am Palestinian by origin, but born in Montreal. I studied here in Mississauga, graduated from the University of Toronto. Very proud Mississaugan now. I've been in policy and politics for quite some time now, about 6-7 years. So most recently I was Director of Policy at the Minister of Fisheries, Oceans, Canadian Coast Guard. But I've worked in several federal departments beforehand. And before then, I was with the Canadian Red Cross. So I love this community. I've got over 6,000 volunteer hours with the Canadian Red Cross working in this community. So it's just a pleasure to be here.
That is amazing. And I just found out that you were nominated for this election very last minute.
I was.
So tell us more about how that happened. But let's back up a little bit more. When did you know you wanted to be leading in this direction?
You never really know, I want to say. I mean, you have this faint idea in the background that you want to serve Canadians and you want to serve the people. But ultimately, it's not one of those things that you actively work towards. I think it's an opportunity that just happens to come onto you as you do your work, as you serve the community.
Sure.
So last campaign in 2021, I was helping Omar. I was working on that campaign, and not at any point did I have the intention of, hey, 4 years down the line, I'm going to be in his shoes. But I'm very, very fortunate to say that it's worked out that way. And I'm very, very fortunate to say that I have a beautiful riding like this one.
Yeah. So Faris, I've been talking to your team and they're telling me that you're spending hours at the door right now. Tell us a little bit more about when you're having conversations with people at the door, what are you finding are maybe the top 3 primary points of concern?
Affordability, public safety, the Trump thing. That's the best way to say it, maybe. I don't want to get too technical with it. But those are the 3 things I'm hearing most. Canadians are concerned about gas prices. They're concerned about grocery prices. They're concerned about housing and what that will look like for themselves and for their children. But they're also worried about public safety, car thefts, and home invasions. Above all else, I think Canadians are worried about healthcare and what it looks like for them as people when they go and visit hospitals. We're proud of our healthcare system in Canada, and we've always been proud of it. And I think as of late, Canadians have had some challenges, and although mostly provincial, it's something that I think the federal government needs to be playing a role in. And obviously the Trump thing, as I refer to it, is something that's top of mind for every Canadian right now. We've had a long-standing friendship with the United States for quite some time now, and I think Canadians are now realizing that perhaps that friendship is something we're going to have to reconsider. And so we'll do what we do best, which is make friends elsewhere.
I love that. So allow me to piggyback on that a little bit. A lot of consumers are just feeling stress, overwhelmed, and a lot of anxiety from the tariffs being imposed. To someone who's feeling that way, what advice can you give them on how to better navigate this?
Look, ultimately, I think it comes down to the work that we do as a federal government, right? I am not the one that's going to step in and tell a small business or tell any business of any kind how they should go about navigating their business and their affairs. But it is our job as a federal government to ensure that we're creating the right environment for them to thrive in. And ultimately, I think Canadians right now who are feeling the threat of these tariffs need to know they've got a government that is stepping in, that is doing the work. It's about integrating our supply chains with other countries. Right now, we're looking at the United States, and it feels as though businesses are cornered. They don't have an alternative. Our job is to create that alternative. And Mark is already doing that work. He's already traveling to Europe. He's already having those conversations, making it abundantly clear. Canada's good at making friends, and we will continue to make friends. Above all else, buy Canadian. Buy Canadian products, buy Canadian grocery products, shop Canadian, invest in Canada. That is, I think, maybe that the hindsight thing that's come out of this entire situation with the United States. People are proud of being Canadian again, and we should be. We have beautiful culture, and we're good at what we do. And we should continue to emphasize that reality day in, day out.
Absolutely love that. So is it safe to say that you actually support the removal of U.S. goods from our Canadian shelves?
I think it's extremely important to prioritize Canadian goods. I don't know if removing American goods is the right way of going about it. I think it should be abundantly clear that Canadian products should be taken precedent. That is prime shelf space. It is ensuring that if those tariffs are in place, that those prices are reflected in the products that are bought. Your average Canadian, I would argue, will gladly pay $4 for a Canadian product if it means not buying an American product. And ultimately, that's what we want to see in those grocery stores. We want to see Canadians having that incentive and that access to Canadian products. And if that means removing American products from certain prime locations, yes, I am supportive of that.
I love the way you said it. So it's very easy to kind of understand and digest it, but also in a very friendly manner, like how we are as Canadians.
Absolutely.
Right? So first, I'm going to share some very common sentiments that I'm getting with people that we're chatting with on the streets. And then try your best to answer whatever you can to respond to that. Let's say 2-3 sentences.
Gladly.
Okay? There's a family of 4, husband, wife, 2 kids. They feel that they will never be able to afford a home in GTA. And they would like to know if that's ever going to change. More specifically, are there any policies that might help that?
I understand you. I promise 3 sentences. The first one is, I understand you. I'm also looking at the cost of homes, $1 million home, $600,000 apartment, 20% down payment at $120,000. I don't know anyone that can afford that right now. And so maybe my message, if there is going to be any message at all, it is the federal government is here to support you. We recently just announced that we'd be creating an entity that will be building double the number of houses that we initially thought we'd be building. That is yearly 500,000 new homes. That's important. That is the kind of work we want to see. It's the kind of work we did after World War II, and it's the kind of work we'll be doing now. Sorry, a little over 3 sentences there.
But very powerful sentences. What would you say to someone who believes that Canada should become the 51st state?
Absolutely not. Maybe that is the way that I answer that question. But I think Canadians now, more than ever before, are extremely proud of being Canadian. We have a lot of similarities with our friends down south. We do. But we have a lot of differences too. And I think you can see it in the way that we've gone about the situation. Always polite, but still very firm.
What about a family that feels that after covering housing, after covering basic necessities, utilities, groceries, just living costs, there's nothing left to live off of? And that in itself is taking away the joy of being a Canadian. And they're asking, will it ever get better?
Yeah. I think that's a concern that I'm hearing very often at the doors, right? We have a lot of immigrant populations, a lot of people who have lived abroad and come back to Canada. And I hear it fairly often, this idea of, hey, I don't know that I get to enjoy much of life nowadays. I go from home to work and work to home, and then I repeat for the rest of it. And I think that's a very fair concern. Ultimately, what we want to do is incentivize competition, get prices down so Canadians can both afford rent, but also simultaneously afford to have fun, afford to enjoy life on a day in, day out basis. Families are not getting the opportunity to enjoy life. And it's something that I completely understand and in many ways relate to. And so I think we absolutely need to do something about that.
That resonates a lot because I think my parents, when they migrated here, they originally wanted their sacrifices to lead into a better quality of life for their kids. And I can't confidently say folks my age are necessarily finding that improved quality of life. So it's good to know there's some sort of aim to tackle that, right? Faris, one of the more common questions that I'm beginning to get now as we're canvassing across the streets and getting consumer sentiments is the worry for the rising Islamophobia. People are genuinely scared, and it doesn't seem like they have any hope. Are there any policies that you will implement once you're elected into office to combat this?
I want to say thank you for asking this question. It's a very personal one to me, and it's something that I'm seeing at the doors every now and then. I'm very fortunate the Mississauga Centre is as diverse of a community as it is, but every now and then I'll knock on the door and they'll go, "What's your last name? Not voting for you." I've been very fortunate that it's not been the case in many ways, but it does happen. It was a Liberal government that introduced Amir Al-Gawabi, right? The special representative on Islamophobia. It's her that's done a lot of the work. It's she that's done a lot of the work combating Islamophobia. It's our job as a government to support her as she continues to do that work. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond merely having the representative. It's empowering the representative to continue to do that work alongside us. Where are those areas that require strengthening? Is it areas of kind of on hate regulations, on hate language? Was it exactly? Is it hate speech in particular? We've seen incidents over the past few years in this country. We saw an incident just today, actually. And that's not acceptable. It's not the country that we all want. It's not the country that we all know Canada is to be. And so that's exactly what we need to be addressing. This reality of if things are getting worse for the Muslims, they're not going to be much better for anybody else. And so it's about creating and fostering an environment that works for everyone, and that includes Muslims.
I want to double down on that one too.
Please.
Islamophobia is definitely one layer of genuine concern.
Yes.
But as a generality, people are also worried about the rising rate of crime.
Yes.
Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. I mentioned it earlier. It's the second concern I hear most often. It goes affordability, public safety, healthcare. Those are the three things I hear most often at doors. And I get it. I understand. People's cars are getting broken into. If it's not broken into, they're getting stolen in their entirety. It's home invasions, right? People don't feel like their homes are their homes after someone has broken into them anymore. And that's never okay. And that's why a couple of days ago, I was just with Mark Carney in Brampton, and we were able to announce over 2,000 additional CBSA and RCMP officers that are going to be on our borders, that are going to be making sure that we're regulating our borders and securing the areas that need to be secured. But it also goes beyond that on the car thefts and on the home invasions. It's making sure that there are stricter bail regulations and laws in place so that the people that are committing these offenses stay in jail if they should stay in jail.
So far as some of the conversations that we're having on the doors right now, some families have made it very abundantly clear. Their vote goes to the party that is going to address what is happening in Gaza and Palestine.
Yeah.
Can you share your thoughts on that?
Gladly. I'll start by saying I'm Palestinian. And so the people that are dying on the ground are ultimately my people. And that is maybe the starting point here. What we're seeing right now in Gaza, and the reason you're seeing and hearing so many Canadians stand up is not just because we have a very strong Middle Eastern community or a very strong Muslim community. It's because standing up for Gaza is the inherently Canadian thing to do. Time and time and time again, Canada has stood up for wrong around the world. And what we're seeing right now, what we're seeing with Israeli attacks on the ground, what we're seeing with a genocide is the wrong thing to do. And so what we as a country have to do is stand up for wrong. This does not mean alienating the Jewish state. It does not mean alienating Israel. It does not mean alienating Jews in general. It just means that at a fundamental humanitarian level, we can all agree people dying is wrong in any context. And that's the Canadian stance. And that's what the Canadian stance should always be.
Now, to introduce more of you to our audience, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Hit me.
Rapid fire, if you will.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to get a little bit more personal, but not too
That's
personal,
okay,
right?
yeah.
Are you a morning person or are you a night owl?
Morning person, for sure.
Very nice. Are we talking like 5 a.m. or are we thinking like 8, 9 a.m.?
Depends on the day. Nowadays, 5 a.m.
5 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
Lovely. Okay. Coffee or tea?
I would say tea typically. I will say coffee today. Campaign time, coffee.
Very nice. How many shots of espresso are going into coffee right now?
None. I'm a latte guy.
Okay. Very nice. All right. Are you a book person or are you a podcast person?
Books. Yes.
Favorite go-to book?
Ooh, very, very good. Jack Reacher. Jack Reacher is a series, is one of my personal favorites. They just recently released a TV series as well.
Yes, they did.
I'm not advertising for them, but it's definitely worth watching.
Got it. Have you seen the Jack Reacher movie?
I have seen the Jack Reacher movies.
Okay.
Don't like them as much as the series. The series
Sure.
is spot on. It's accurate. It's exactly what the book means.
Very, very nice. Okay, and lastly, sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Your favorite go-to dessert?
Oof. Oh, what a tough one. Eclair. I will go eclair. I know it's not that sweet, but I will go eclair. And I know that's a contrast to the answer I just gave, but I stick firmly with it, eclair.
Very classy choice. Now, for everyone who's watching right now and they want to follow your journey, whereabouts can they follow you? Where's your campaign office located? And can they drop by and say hi?
Ferris A. Al Sood on all socials, 4036 Confederation Parkway. And absolutely, I'm always around the office if I'm not canvassing. So come by, genuinely come by. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a chat.
Faris, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Brother Muiz, for that insight. Now we move on to Muhammad Ishaq, the other candidate, Muslim candidate in this riding, who Brother Ahmed had the privilege to interview. Let's head on to that.
Thank you for joining us. We're here with candidate for MP Muhammad Ishaq, and I wanted to ask you, you've been knocking on a lot of doors right now. What are some of the issues voters that you're speaking to care about right now?
Honestly, every other door is facing similar issues. They are having tough time finding jobs, especially youth, their first job, their first house. First house is almost near to impossible to buy now. The parents are worried, youth is worried, and even people who have jobs, they are worried too whether they are going to have job next month or not. So everyone is worried about these things, and also crime rate is really rising a lot. So even people are scared to open doors for political door knockers. They are scared. That's not their fault, because situation is very different now. I hope once the Liberal government is gone, Conservative government comes in and we bring tough laws, which our leader already announced, that we will have a law that any repeated criminal, we will make sure that he is in jail for 3 years without bail.
Why do you feel like the Conservative Party has the solutions to these problems?
Oh, as I said, the main solution is, even if you see previous Conservative governments, you have never experienced or seen these kind of crime ratios before in Conservative government. The only time you see crime increasing, you see in a Liberal government, because they loosen the laws. They don't have a strict laws against criminals, which Conservatives, they always bring strict laws. If you are involved in any crime, Conservatives make sure that you are not on the same street. You are in the jail. If you do multiple crimes or one crime, you are in the jail, not on the streets.
And we saw a lot of support you had here today, especially we've seen other MPs here. What does that mean to you to have them here supporting you?
That means a lot to me, because I have been working for a very long time in Conservative Party, bringing community and Conservative Party together. So these are the people I have been working with. So this was the time when I needed their support, so they came and supported me.
And why do you feel like people should come out and vote for you in this election?
Oh, I see a great momentum. I see people from all walks of life. As you see, every single community members, they were here. That I appreciate a lot, because that is what I wanted to see. That is my success. Because I'm not working only with one community or two communities. I'm working with all communities living in Mississauga Center, and that is a part of my success.
Now, Mississauga Center is a very diverse community, and there are a lot of international issues going on, including Gaza. How do you feel the Conservative Party will approach that?
The Conservative Party, my job is to connect communities with the leadership, and also with the party, other member parliaments. So I'm trying my best to bring community and the party together and hope everything goes smooth and well.
Mohammed Ishaq, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
All right, great interview, Brother Ahmed.
Yeah, thank you. That was actually one of the first ones we did. But I wanted to ask you, just like Brother Moiz was asking, sweet or savory?
You know, I think I'm a sweet kind of person. What about yourself?
You know, I guess it depends on my mood.
Yeah.
But I do have a particular way of eating. It has to be sweet, savory first, then sweet.
That makes sense.
I can't mix it
Get
up.
dessert afterwards,
Yeah,
right?
once I eat my dessert, I'm done for the
Then
day.
that's it.
Yeah.
Halas.
So I wanted to ask you, have you voted yet?
I have not. I'm going to be rushing after here. I'm going to go and vote. What about yourself?
I actually voted on Easter weekend. So
Okay,
I got
nice.
my
Advance
voting
voting.
done. And I hope all of you are going to be going out and voting if you have not yet.
Yes. Please go and exercise your right to vote, especially when the stakes are so high like this. Make sure you go out there and cast your vote.
So it's really nice to see some of the candidates in Mississauga Center. Obviously, it's a very important riding. There's almost 20% of the riding is Muslim, one of the highest in the country. So obviously, it's going to be playing a major role this election cycle.
And even looking at the polls right now, so as of Sunday night, a one-day ballot tracking by Nanos Research, we see that Liberals are at 42.6%. Conservatives are just trailing behind with 39.9%. We have NDP with a bit of a gap over there at 7.8% of the three leading parties. We have Québécois, Bloc Québécois, 6.4%, Green Party, 1.9%, and the PPC at 1.1%. So it's going to be pretty tight between the Liberals and the Conservatives.
We're going to delve into those numbers a little bit later, but right now we're going to go live to Moiz, who's on site. Moiz, can you hear us?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
I could hear you,
but we can't see you. Let's tilt the camera again like it was before. Seems like it might be an auto lock issue.
All right. Thank you.
There we go.
Trying to get new equipment today. Sometimes it takes a while to catch on, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we've been doing a lot of studies right now, speaking to individuals, our fellow voters, to get their sentiments about the election. More specifically, what pain points they are having and what changes they want to see, which will ultimately direct their vote. And we wanted to share some statistics with you. 57% of Mississauga voters are worried about the rising inflation rate. 67% of them are worried about cost of living. 70% of the youth that we spoke to, and this is so sad to say, but it is a reality, 70% of the youth feel that they will never be able to afford a home in the GTA during their lifetime, which was the go-to Canadian dream at one point as well. So with housing, cost of living, crime, healthcare, these are the go-to concerns right now for all of the voters that we're speaking to, and all they want is some change to make these parts of their lives easier.
Moiz, I wanted to ask you, so you've been speaking obviously to a lot of people. Have you been seeing concern with what's going on in the U.S. and the tariffs?
The tariff concern is absolutely a massive pain point, but to the point where consumers just don't know, fellow voters just don't know what to think. They understand a tariff is being imposed, but they don't understand repercussions of it or how to even think about it. So whenever we chat with folks on the street, they're telling us that they would like a little bit more clarity. They understand as much as, yes, job losses will happen, and we might have to even forego some of the goods that come from the US, but that's as much as they know. So they're actually looking at our politicians and our candidates to get a lot more clarity as to how to feel about the tariffs going forward.
All right, thank you for that. We're going to be now going to our Streetsville interviews and talking to some of the voters that we spoke to in that area.
We're here in Mississauga asking people their thoughts and experiences about the healthcare system in Canada. Let's go hear what they have to say.
I'm hoping with the new election and policy change, maybe things will become better, because I know a lot of people do suffer because of long wait times, and I know that there's definitely a system that can be improved. My personal experience has not been that, but I do know of people who've had really terrible experiences and whose treatment has been delayed because of long wait time. But let's hope for the best.
I do understand that at the hospitals and that sort of thing is pretty bad, but also waiting for specialists is also very bad. I am experiencing that. So specialist goes on months and months and months, sometimes longer.
I don't necessarily see an improvement until they redo a lot of the budget issues that exist in this country. So we've got, the federal redistribution, we've got the top-ups coming from the federal government for have provinces and have not provinces. I can't see it happening. The government's overpopulated, overpaid, just to manage, barely 42 million people. So no, what we pay is disproportionate to the services we get. It's going to be a revolutionary government to make that happen.
This is Lama reporting from Muslim Network TV.
You could really see the voters, what they're concerned about, reflected also with what Brother Maiz was talking about.
Exactly. And healthcare is also a really big issue that a lot of people want to see some change with. So let's head on to an interview about that.
We're here in the old Mississauga Streetsville today asking people about how the newly imposed tariffs in the last few weeks have affected their day-to-day lives, their businesses, and what they think will happen moving forward.
I think that the tariffs, there's a good and bad to them. Obviously in the short term, cost of living is going to go up. There's a lot of uncertainty in the markets, if you're investing or doing stuff like that. But long term, if Canada plays it right and the politicians wake up a bit, I think maybe it'll be something like a blessing in disguise. So yeah, that's what I think. So short term, we're gonna probably feel some pain, but long term, I think it might be worthwhile if we act correctly.
It does affect people on day-to-day life. But in the long run, it's a good thing for Canadians to learn that we should be dependent on ourselves, not on other nations. Canada is a nation that has enough people to sustain our economy, and we have brains, we have all what it takes. Just need to rely on ourselves, be more dependent than dependable on other nations.
I don't really know because it's only just started, so you have to give everything a little time. Everything takes a little time.
I'm Sakina Dayura from Muslim Network TV.
So we're going to be showing some more interviews right now, specifically with conservative voters, and I hope you enjoy our talk with Captain Canada.
So was it you who did this interview, Brother?
Actually, it was me, and that was one of the questions I asked him, why they call him Captain Canada. It was very interesting to see. So I hope the viewers are going to see that. But, just before we get to that interview, you were discussing some of the polling numbers, and it's very interesting to see where we started off when Trudeau was still in power, and then after he stepped down, the drastic shift that took place in the polling and where we are now, where the Liberals are actually ahead. It was almost a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that, the Liberals are synonymous with Trudeau, which makes sense because he was in power for so long. But Carney does have some different opinions on things as well. They're not exactly eye to eye on everything.
For sure, for sure. So we're ready to go to that interview now. Please enjoy. We're here with Patrick Warrior, also known as Captain Canada. We wanted to ask him some questions here at Mohamed Ishaq's campaign launch. So I wanted to first ask you, you are around a lot and speaking to a lot of voters. What are some of the issues that you see voters care about right now?
A big thing that voters care about right now is affordability, crime, and young people can't even afford to buy a home. And that's one of the biggest problems. Everything is just out of reach to be able to afford.
That's true for a lot of people. And this is going to become a big issue. Yeah. So you're here at the Conservative launch for Mohamed Ishaq. Let's start with the Conservative Party and why you support them.
Well, I support the Conservative Party because it's a positive message of change. So what I don't do is I don't talk about what the last 9 years are about. What I do is talk about what the next generation needs moving forward. And the Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada have a positive message that they're going to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime. And it's a positive message for all Canadians. It doesn't matter where you came from, It matters where you're going. You work hard, you get a good home, you get a good job, you have a safe street, and you can wave that beautiful Canadian flag. And that's the message that I want to spread to help Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada become government in the next federal election.
So we're also obviously here at the launch of Mohamed Ishaq's campaign. Why are you supporting him specifically?
Ishaq is the Canadian story. Ishaq came here to Canada as an immigrant, had nothing, worked hard, raised a family, worked jobs that a lot of people would never have worked, built him and his family up, putting his kids through school. He is the ultimate Canadian story. And that's what Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada with Ishaq Mohamed are going to do for Canada. They're going to make that Canadian dream possible again. They're going to bring back the Canada that we knew and still love. And with Ishaq on that team, it's going to be a powerful team. Mississauga Centre is lucky to have such a guy like Ishaq Mohamed. And when he becomes member of parliament, there's going to be a big cheer.
Now, the answer to this might be very obvious, but why do they call you Captain Canada?
Well, the reason why, so it was a nickname given to me actually by one of Pierre's teams at a rally. So I go to the rallies. I'm just a volunteer. I'm not paid for by the party. They don't tell me what to do. But I actually go, meet people, champion the Canadian cause, and I'm proud of the Canadian flag. That's why I have the nickname Captain Canada, and that's why when Pierre Poilievre becomes the next Prime Minister, that's why we're going to bring it home.
Thank you very much for this. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
A wonderful interview, Brother Ahmed. What did you learn from that?
Thank you. You know, I would say that overall, you speak to different people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of concerns are the same. I think maybe the solutions that they're looking for the, they differ on who they want to lead.
Mm-hmm.
But the core issues like cost of living, healthcare, what's taking place in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are concerned, and it's brought out a lot of Canadian nationalism.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are seeing eye to eye with that. They just want to see an end to those things and want to see some unity.
For sure.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to take a short break and we will be right back.
In 2025, Canada heads to the polls, and the voices of GTA Muslims matter more than ever. We're the fastest growing population in the Greater Toronto Area, and we're bringing our values, concerns, and hopes to the ballot box. From global justice to local struggles, housing, Islamophobia, foreign policy, the issues affecting Muslims are on the front lines. Introducing GTA Muslims Today, your go-to source for exclusive federal election 2025 coverage. Watch GTA Muslims Today, only on Muslim Network TV.
Welcome back. Now, Brother Ahmed, you've been booked and busy. We're now going to move on to an interview with Dr. Hamid Salimi, who is the founder of Sayyidah Khadija Center and a community leader who Brother Ahmed had the chance to speak to. Let's take a look at that.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan from Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. I have the honor of standing with Imam and Dr. Imam Hamid Salimi. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us. So, can you first tell us just a little bit about yourself?
I am here, Imam, for almost 30 years in North America, and I'm currently the president of the Muslim Council of Peel and also the Imam of Sayyidah Khadija Center. And we are here to serve the community.
So, you being very involved in the community and you speak to a lot of people, what are some of the concerns that you're hearing from your people?
Our people, is very diverse now. It's hard to tell you what they say. We have new immigrants who don't know what we've been doing for the last 50 years as a Muslim community. They're coming and they don't understand what we achieved and bridges we built, but they're only concerned about one issue. Then you have Muslims who gave up on politics, especially the youth. And we have concerned people like me and you, who are the majority, who want to see better leadership at the federal level, whether it's politics. And also, Islamophobia is our main concern. As a Muslim community, the common thing that we share, all of us as Muslims, whether those who've been 30, 40, 50 years here or those who came yesterday, Islamophobia is on the rise.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of this about the Islamophobia, and then there's obviously talked about what's going on south of the border with our neighbors, and then obviously internationally with Gaza and Palestine and those kind of situations.
Yeah, well, Gaza has been actually a decisive issue. Gaza has exposed the world and even the politics all over the world, including here in Canada, who is really with us and who is just giving us sweet words but no action. And we saw some brave souls came out and stood by justice and by the truth, and they called for ceasefire. They are calling for the welfare of every human being, not specifically the people of Gaza, of all the world, in the Middle East and everywhere in the world. So this Gaza crisis has exposed many, actually, and Muslims have become now aware of who is with them and who is not. And then, like I said, there are many issues that came up just because of this crisis.
So as a leader in the community, speaking to our audience, a lot of them are Muslim, what is your message to them? What is our duties as Muslims living in Canada?
I would say be very careful from some voices that say don't get involved in politics. Like we always say, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu, for sure. And no vote is a vote. When you say, I don't want to vote, then you give in to those who are against, what we want. We want justice, we want peace, we want equity, we want Islamophobia to end. We want many things. But if you don't vote and you don't do your due diligence and you don't get involved, then what will happen? You're giving chance to those who are opposing your views and opposing even your very existence in this country. And so voting is a way, it's a power that you have. Don't underestimate it. If each and every one of us, does his part, then we can make a difference.
Imam Hamid Salimi, I know you're very busy. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
This is Ahmed Ramadan from Muslim Network TV and GTA Muslims Today. Please leave your comments in the messages below, letting us know what else you want us to cover and what are some of your concerns this election cycle. Stay tuned for more interviews. Assalamu alaikum.
Another great interview by Brother Ahmed, and I really do want to emphasize what Dr. Hamid Salimi said about doing your due diligence and making sure that you're exercising your right to vote and heading to the ballots, because our voices do matter. You want to make sure that they're heard, especially when the stakes are so high and it's a huge thing of the federal election. This is the state of the next 4 years.
For sure, for sure. I hope people do go and exercise that right. It is a duty on all of us.
Absolutely.
So
Brother Ahmed, why, for some people, I think they might not know how the system works, voting. We have ridings across the state, across the country, and as it's different from how things are done around the world. So why don't you give us a breakdown of what it looks like here in Canada?
So Canada is a winner-take-all system where the highest vote getter in a district, so in a riding, is the one that wins that seat. So once the majority or the most number of votes are tallied and that riding is won, any votes after that really does not add to the overall riding count. So this is why you will see a high concentration of voters for one party in one area. And while they might actually, and this is similar to the way it is in the US, where although you may win the popular vote, you may actually lose the overall election. It differs from the US because I know a lot of people also are familiar with the US. The US is done by state. Canada is done by ridings. So we have 338 ridings. It benefits, I guess, the Liberals right now that most of their power is concentrated more in Vancouver and in Ontario. This is where the Conservatives were trying to make some headway. But again, once the ridings are, so the Liberals will win, even if it's much more contested in some of these areas. The fact that they still end up winning will still add to their seat count overall.
Yeah, it's really important, I think, to break this down and, educate everyone, because some people might not know about how things operate. And when you're voting and trying to make a change in the way that the country operates, it's important to know how it goes down at the base level.
Yeah, I think sometimes we see the polling, and although it might be very close, they see the breakdown of actually how many seats each party is going to win, and it becomes a lot different. The differences look a lot more drastic in that way. So right now we're actually going to be going to another one of my interviews.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said at the
busy.
Off the top, it's been a very hectic but very honestly rewarding last few weeks. And this one is with Mississauga Erin Mills, candidate for the Liberals. She's already a sitting MP, Iqra Khalid.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan here for GTA Muslims Today for Muslim Network TV. I'm sitting with MP Iqra Khalid, who's going for her 4th term in the Mississauga Erin Mills riding. Iqra, you've been representing Mississauga Erin Mills for a few years now, since 2015. What first brought you into politics, and what keeps you going?
Well, when I first moved to Canada, I was 12 years old, and I was so perplexed by our community. It was like, how is it that we can be so different from each other and yet still be one of the most peaceful countries in the world? So I spent a lot of time volunteering, food banks, shelters, the library, art gallery. I used to teach kids how to paint. And so after I came back from law school and I was working in the city of Mississauga, it seemed like a very natural transition for me to go into politics, because ultimately it's just about public service.
Well, that's great. How's the riding changed in the last 9 years, and how has your role changed also or evolved?
Well, I always say that the job of a member of parliament is to take the feedback from our constituents up to Ottawa, not the other way around. And over these past 10 years, not only have we had, an increase in population in our riding, but we've also seen a lot more young people get involved in politics and world issues as well. And I think that's definitely a good thing.
So you've been knocking on a lot of doors recently. What are some of the issues or the top issues that you've been hearing from your constituents?
Well, I think the number one thing that I hear from every single door that I've knocked on is the tariffs that are being imposed by President Trump from the U.S. Another issue that we're seeing again and again is affordability. People just having a really difficult time making ends meet here in Canada. The third issue that I'm hearing is about crime and how we can have our community better protected and kept more safe. And then the last issue that I hear that I'll highlight today is obviously with respect to what is happening in the Middle East with Palestine and Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank.
So when we're speaking about tariffs, how do you feel that the Liberal Party and Mike Carney are going to be able to tackle that issue?
Well, what really gave me a lot of hope was when Prime Minister Carney had his first phone call with President Trump. The response from President Trump was that of respect, where he stopped calling our Prime Minister the governor. He stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state and indicated that he is willing to negotiate. And I think that is the reason why Prime Minister Carney is the best choice for Canada right now, because he understands economy. He understands the impact of growing not only from the grassroots, but also from the top down as well. So I think we've had a good response so far, and I look forward to working with our Prime Minister in the future on this.
So as you mentioned, affordability and cost of living are major issues right now. We could see that in the polls, and obviously it's been reflected in the voters that you've been speaking to. How do you see the Liberal Party tackling that issue?
Well, the challenge is not just about lowering the cost of things, grocery items, etc. The challenge is also to make sure that there's a living wage for everyone. What's happening with our labor market right now is that we are converting into a complete gig economy. Our labor laws don't exactly match the energy of our young people that are looking for jobs right now, that are working in the sector. Protections for them, while also ensuring that our markets are competitive I think is the best approach to ensuring that everybody is able to live and work with dignity, with respect. Obviously, housing is a major part of it as well, where, you know, the cost of rent or the costs of mortgages, for example, those are also things that we need to tackle while balancing and understanding that the people that bought their homes here in Mississauga, say 25, 30 years ago, don't want to see the prices of their homes go down. So I think we need to strike that right balance between increasing living wage and making sure that that housing is accessible to everyone here in Mississauga. And I think a lot of those factors will help have people live in dignity and with respect and be able to afford their lifestyles.
Well, another thing you mentioned, which is community safety. You know, there's been a lot of concerns around policing, hate crimes, and public safety in general. What do you feel like the federal government should be doing in order to help communities feel safer?
Well, the role of the federal government is to strengthen our criminal code and the laws. Enforcement of those laws is, according to our constitution, the role of the provinces. Now, where we have partnered, for example, on auto theft, we have partnered with all levels of government, with insurance companies, with local police in a summit to come up with solutions as to how we're going to really address this issue. And we have seen, as this task force has been created, a really major decrease in auto thefts. I think that our local police need to be really empowered in order to protect us. Just recently, the city of Mississauga and Peel region increased their budget for Peel Police. I think that a little bit more partnership from the provincial government would be really helpful. And one point I'll say, you know, a lot of people seem to think that the bail system is the federal government's responsibility. Now, where we write the laws for how the bail system is supposed to function, the challenge is that our jails are full and our jails are funded by the provincial government. And if they are not investing in the administration of justice, then of course people are going to be let out on bail. Of course people are going to commit further crimes. I really encourage our provincial government and Doug Ford to step up and take a really hard look at how we administer justice in Ontario.
So I'm going to pivot now to more of the international scene. Many Canadians, especially those from diaspora communities, feel that the Canadian policy or the way Canada presents itself is inconsistent with their actions. We continue to maintain relationships with states like Israel, India, China that have grave human rights abuse records. What should Canada's policies be when it comes to these international situations?
Well, I think we should be consistent with how we protect those that really need that protection. We have international treaties, we have international law, the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, which Canada has helped found, which Canada should respect. And I really appreciate that we are moving towards and trying to maintain respect for the decisions that these courts have put into place. I think over these past 10 years, speaking specifically about Gaza, for example, or Palestine, we have been able to not only provide $100 million of humanitarian aid to that region, but also Prime Minister Carney has pledged another $100 million to help with the rebuild. We, through this war, this terrible atrocity that is happening, tens of thousands of people that have died, have really tried to, myself, I tried very hard to do the right thing, to stand for principles, and I think that we need more of that. When we talk about Canada working in the international stage, we are the peacekeepers. We are the facilitators of peace in regions, and I think that we need to do more of that. For myself, I'm banned from China. I'm banned from Russia. India doesn't like me very much, and obviously Israel doesn't like me very much because I have a solid track record of stepping up and standing up for the values that my constituents here in Mississauga, Erin Mills, really believe in.
You've often taken very strong stances, both publicly and with the work and action that you've taken in government about international human rights. often ahead of your party. What are some of the, I would say, hurdles or challenges that you see both within maybe the Liberal Party, but also within the government in general?
Canada is a very diverse country. There's a lots of complementary, conflicting opinions here in our country. And that's exactly the same with the Liberal Party of Canada as well. We're a big tent party. There's a diversity of opinion. So sometimes building consensus can be a little bit challenging, but that's what democracy is really all about. It is about building consensus. It's about bringing in different viewpoints and finding the right way to act on what our constituents want. And I really appreciate all the support that I get from my constituents, the advocacy, the lobbying, the criticism, the feedback, all of it, because all of that helps in really building what we collectively as a country want to achieve.
So let's talk about representation, especially when it comes to this upcoming election. There are those that feel that they are not being represented within the government. They're disengaged with elections. What is your message to these people?
The biggest challenge that we are facing right now in Canada is this rise of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech that is really putting off a lot of people from engaging with democracy, with their government institutions, with their elected officials. So my message to you all would be, please engage, get to know your facts, meet the people that represent you in our government, in our parliament, because it's your voice that we are speaking for. So if you remain silent, then we don't know how you're feeling. So please engage.
That was a Liberal candidate, Iqra Khalid, with the Mississauga Erin Mills riding. And she mentioned that tariffs are the most pressing issue alongside job safety and affordability for a lot of people in the riding. So let's see if the NDP echo that statement. Brother Moise sits down with Ihab Mustafa. Let's take a look at that.
Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Muslim Network TV, and today we have a new segment on our new show, GTA Muslims Today. I'm your host, Moise Rahman. I have the great pleasure of being joined by Ihab Mustafa, and he's going to be talking about the upcoming elections in Canada. Ihab, thank you so much for joining us today.
Moise, thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. For the ones that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Palestinian, born and raised in Canada. My family came from Lebanon in the 1980s, settled in Mississauga, so I've been here my whole life. Lived in the riding from 2001 until about 2017. I studied molecular biology and genetics in university, and then I did my master in global affairs at the University of Toronto. And for the last 12 years, I've been working in finance.
That's quite a long list of history right there. That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, before I dive into the real gritty questions, would you also agree that Mississauga has the best food?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if you've been to that Ridgeway Plaza, but it definitely has a lot of great options.
Okay, we'll go there next time then.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. Okay, so we have a long list of questions to talk about today, right? And these are all questions that our consumers have. Before we dive into it, a little bit about you. At what point in your life did you feel that you should go into politics? But on top of that, was there a specific event that kind of occurred that motivated you to become the voice for your community?
I wouldn't say that there was necessarily a single moment in which I decided I want to get into politics. What I would say is that there was a series of events from the pandemic to seeing Canadians get so sort of isolated and detached from each other and feeling kind of alone and just generally miserable as prices increased and as living conditions got more difficult. That was a big influence at first to see how people were feeling. But then over the last 2 years, as we saw global events unfold, including the genocide in Gaza, and seeing people out on the street in tens of thousands and 20,000s and 30,000, and seeing how much they were engaged, how much they were involved, and how much they wanted to do something to change things, and having that political will not turn into political action. So that kind of that whole scene of Canadians living in more difficult conditions, the rising cost of living, the inability to buy houses, just the Canadians generally feeling that anguish mixed with the sorrow so many Canadians felt from seeing what was happening in the Middle East. It made me feel that we don't really have the representation we need So I wanted to be that real voice for these marginalized communities, including the Muslim community, to say and do what needs to be done so that we can all feel that we're represented adequately in government.
So let's talk about that a little bit. There's very few people that I've met, if at all any, that have taken not only as a mission, but pride in being a voice for the Muslim community. Do you feel there was a big lack, there was a big gap in our community, and we really needed a change?
We have lots of great political leaders, I think, that are Muslims from many parties. I think the distinction is making sure that we have, again, like I said, like a real voice. What I tried to say about that, if I want to clarify, a real voice for me means not only representing Muslims when it comes to Islamophobia or discussing just generally Muslim community values and what's happening, but also the issues that are really pertinent to Muslims, including what's happening over there in the Middle East. So while we do have great representation and great leaders, I believe that we always stand on the shoulders of giants. Some of them not so much have been maybe as vocal as we would like, and some others being a lot more vocal. But there's always ways to push the envelope, and I feel that I come from a generation that is a lot more unreserved when it comes to wanting to push the envelope and represent all communities, Muslim communities. When we marched in protest, so many Canadians were there from Filipinos, Latinos, the Irish, Italians, Portuguese, Pakistanis, like a whole mosaic, which is really what the Canadian identity is, right? The Canadian identity is one that's based in human rights and diversity. So all of these voices need representation, and the Muslim community is one of them. And I feel like we have some leaders, but we could definitely push the envelope.
Talking about human equality, you definitely believe in it, I can tell. There's a lot of people who are going to be watching this from the consumer standpoint who feel like that's lacking, and we may not be feeling or believing in human equality. Tell us a little bit more about your belief on it, and maybe something that they can expect in a change when you're elected.
Human equality inequality in general comes, I think, first and foremost from ensuring that we have the tangible things we need to survive. And a Canadian economy, for me, is one that essentially puts people over profits. And once people have the living conditions they need, when they are able to access economic benefit, when they're able to build intergenerational wealth, when they're able to buy a home, when they're able to do all these things, that's what gives them the first basic level of equality. And that, for me, is the place that you start. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, let's start off with making sure we can eat and live. And once that happens, people are a lot more receptive or in a better empathetic or emotional state where they can think about others in a meaningful way. But always conditions in which fascism and dictators rise is in conditions in which economic poverty is rampant, or you have inequality just generally. So I think that's where you start.
I'm going to ask you two questions that are very commonly believed right now from the youth. And there's two studies that came out, and I love your opinion on them, but also a change that potentially could be expected. The first one is 70% of youth feel that they will never own a home, which was one of the biggest attractions for Canadian living, building wealth through real estate.
Definitely.
And that's just out of sight for a lot of people. And the ones who are now leasing, renting, studies are showing that their rent and housing cost is more than 50% of their annual earnings.
Yeah.
And it should be 30%. And then if they miss a check, if they fall ill because they're check to check, they just fall behind. Can you talk a little bit more about those items?
Yeah, so that right there is, I think, the fundamental problem that we're all feeling in the next generation, the generations of Canadians. I mean, whether it's the youth or even Canadians that have been here for longer, or immigrants that have come here to establish a life, that's a core problem that we're all facing. And when our economy doesn't prioritize people, when it puts profits first, it means that beneficial ownership, which is one of the policies that the NDP pushed, which revealed who is actually buying up these homes. So an economy that doesn't favor or promote people is an economy that allows private institutions to buy up all these homes. It's one that doesn't develop houses through public investments, but rather through private corporations, under the auspices or beliefs that somehow trickle-down economics works. That if you are to allow private corporations and private institutions to invest and build, that somehow that will get back to us. But it doesn't. What it does is diminish competitiveness. And when competition decreases, then prices basically are controlled by oligopolies. And that's what we see in all facets of the Canadian economy, whether it's your phone bill, whether it's your banking institution and the fees you pay, or even if it is down to housing. When the economy doesn't favor people and instead it favors profits, then fundamentally what it's going to do is make it more difficult for people to access the benefit of that same economy.
So we've seen this issue time and time again. People are very concerned with housing and being able to afford homes, especially younger voters. Now, we have a comment from one of our viewers, Retired Rebel. He says, April 28th is just a day. The days after is what matter. What do you think about that?
You know, I think what happens today is just as important, because what happens today leads to what happens tomorrow. I think we need to make sure that we make the right choice today, that you make a choice, that everyone heads out there, because this is what's going to dictate our future and what's to come. What do you make of it?
So I've actually been hearing from people that, you know, we have obviously an obligation after the elections are done to stay engaged. It's not just this one day, but I agree with you also. If you don't go out and vote, then you really can't make the claim or complain because you didn't do your just basic duty as a Canadian.
Absolutely.
Right now, we're going to be going live to our correspondent, Sister Sakina, who is in the Ridgeway Plaza. Sister Sakina, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Let us know what is going on. Give us your report.
We're here reporting live from the Ridgeway Plaza on this beautiful, beautiful day. And this plaza is a hot spot for people across the Mississauga Erin Mills riding. Especially, it's bustling throughout the day. Any time of the day you're here. Something really amazing about Mississauga Erin Mills is that it is one of Canada's most diverse ridings, with its population being almost 25% Muslim. And this riding has been represented by MP Iqra Khalid since 2015, and she's running once again for re-election. Along with her, we have some other candidates here as well, such as Milad Mikhail, the Conservative candidate who is running. We have Ihab Mustafa, who we just heard from the NDP, and we have the candidate Suleiman Khan from the Green Party. And you can catch some of our exclusive interviews with these candidates on our channels on GTA Muslims today, and we're going to be hearing a little bit more from these candidates throughout the day as well. So make sure to stay tuned. Back to you.
So, Sister Sakina, we actually just played those interviews, but for those that missed it, you could go to our YouTube channel and watch those. I wanted to point out that just like Mississauga Centre, Mississauga Erin Mills also has two Muslim candidates running, one for the NDP and one for the Liberals. I think that's reflected in the in Mississauga Centre we have about 20% Muslim population. In Mississauga Erin Mills there's 25%. So you've been around that area. Have you seen also the issues that we have been discussing reflected in the people you're speaking to?
Oh, 100%. And actually 3 candidates are Muslim in this riding. So it is really amazing to see, and that definitely reflects the diversity of this riding. And some of the topics that we have been discussing with voters in this area are definitely the tariffs, 100% what is happening, the genocide in Gaza right now. That is a topic that is being constantly talked about, and an issue that many voters are bringing up, and things like carbon tax and housing as well in this area.
So the third candidate that's Muslim that you mentioned is from the Green Party, Suleiman Khan.
Yes, we have the third candidate, Muslim candidate in this riding is Suleiman Khan, and we did an interview right here with him just a few days ago. So make sure to check that out, because he shared some really amazing things about why youth, especially youth in this area, should go out and vote, and why it really matters that youth are engaged in politics in this riding and beyond. and he's only 20 years old. So he shared some great insight for the youth in this community.
Yeah, we've been all over the city. So, we've spoken to a lot of candidates, and I actually overlooked that we have interviewed. So we're going to be running this interview right after we're done with your report. My last question to you is, you're at the Ridgeway Plaza. Have you eaten anything from there yet? And how does it look over there?
Not yet, but to my surprise, it is busy. Even on a Monday afternoon, there are cars parked all around, people going in and out of shops. I guess it is lunchtime, so maybe it's time for us to get something to eat too.
If you're coming back to the studio, please grab me a Yemeni tea on your way. Sister Aisha, you want anything?
I'll take a GC burger, please.
All right. Okay, thank you, Sister Sakina. I appreciate it. And I think we're ready to run that Green Party candidate interview right now. All right, we'll go to that.
Today we are here with Green Party candidate Suleiman Khan from Erin Mills, Mississauga. We are going to be asking him a little bit about his scene in politics and how his campaign has been going so far. Thank you so much for, taking out the time to speak with us and to speak with voters, speak to people in the Muslim community. To start off, can you tell us a little bit about what brought you into politics, what brought you into, starting a campaign and being here where you are today?
So basically, I was born and raised in Erin Mills, Mississauga, and I've lived here my whole life. I've seen people around that almost know the whole community by name, maybe. So raising up here, I realized that a lot of, often young people, youth, and newcomers that come into our area, their voices have been ignored and unheard of. The decision makers don't really care what the youth has to say about politics. They think they're not capable enough to talk about it. So that's why I decided to take the initiative. Maybe people will learn from me and, come out here, start a campaign. I've had a lot of youth and a lot of others supporting me, and, it would go a good way. I hope. Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit about the community here. As you've been, canvassing, talking to voters over the last few days, what are some of the issues that voters seem to have, and especially the Muslim youth in this area?
So I've heard a lot of different problems, but one of them, the most important that a lot of people talk about, was the housing crisis. So basically, our generation is the next generation to come up, go university, get out of university, graduate, get jobs, and buy houses. But a lot of people think that these days, for youth, it's impossible to get a house because the housing market has went so high that people believe that youth, especially, they believe that they cannot afford one. So there was other problems mentioned too, like healthcare, mental health access in this area is very, very, very low. Autism centers, no support network here, and others like groceries, you can say security, especially in this plaza, Ridgeway Plaza, there's been a lot of security problems here and everything. So there was a lot of problems, but housing would be the top.
Yeah. And so based on that, what are some of the things that your party will be implementing to combat some of these issues?
So our party has come up with a motion to bring non-profit housing. We are working on it, and co-op housing. So that would actually help a lot towards, new people coming in and buying housing. And there's one more, it's a new incentive program. So they're thinking that new people who want to buy a house, they get, lower interest rates, a lower, down payment of mortgages, and, to help people to grow this thing that everyone should get their own house and, get used to life.
Building on that, why do you think that is important for Muslim youth to get involved in politics?
So basically, I think if we don't come up, we don't speak up, someone will take our place. So the youth, we're the most impacted people by this election. Like, this election is mostly about us. People who've already been living here, they were going to go on there with their life. But us, we're graduating. I think most of us would be graduating in the next 2, 3.
All right, so that was Sister Sakina with Suleiman Khan, candidate of Green Party. Now, let's do a deep dive into different aspects of this election. Brother Ahmed, I'm going to bring it to you. So first, let's talk about the Conservative Party and why have they seen a drop in support?
Actually, it's really interesting, and we alluded to this a little bit earlier, but we actually should take a look at it, because this is a case study And it was almost a foregone conclusion that the Conservatives were going to win. And after Trudeau stepped down, it was such a massive shift, right, between where they were and where they are now. So a few different factors have played into this. One of them, obviously, is leadership change. When Trudeau stepped down and Carney stepped in, he neutralized a little bit of that, sentiment that Justin Trudeau had from the people, and his calm. And I'm just talking about the way it's portrayed. I'm not, giving my personal view, but he was viewed as being very calm, serious economic tone, reassured a lot of the suburban and middle class voters that they didn't have to risk a chaotic change. Now, another factor that played into that was Poilievre's negative branding. It ended up sticking. Early on, they were trying to brand him as that, but a lot of the voters weren't buying it or were very neutral about it. But as the election went on, as Carney stepped in, some of that branding started to stick to him. And Poilievre's tone is very confrontational. Early on, even like, let's say on an issue like Gaza and Palestine, he tried to stay a little bit neutral. But as it went on, his rhetoric became very far right, and it really turned off a lot of voters to voting Conservative Party.
I think to add to that as well, I think his hot-headed nature is something that people are afraid of, because when it comes to him addressing Trump with the tariffs that are going on right now, we don't know how far that could go if they keep pushing each other.
For sure. And people, at the end of the day, this is another point, it's a very good point that you made, because it leads into one of the other points, is they saw what's happening in the U.S., they saw what's happening with Trump, and they're seeing Poilievre rhetoric echoing a lot of that. So they're concerned, and they don't want that risk. They don't want that uncertainty. They want somebody that's a little bit more calm. And just as much as maybe they're voting Liberal, but I think a lot of voters, and this is what it's showing in a lot of the analysis that's being done, is they're voting against Conservative as much as they're voting for Liberal Party.
And we know that Carney himself has an extensive background in economics. How do you think that has influenced Canadian voters, especially as we find ourselves in the throes of Trump's tariffs?
Yeah, so Carney's obviously been in economics for a while. He was with Bank of Canada. He was with the Bank of London. So people do view him as more of a mature person in the room. And this is really where I think it's helped him out and helped the Liberals out make that resurgence. And voters, again, they see what's the chaos that's taking place in the U.S. They want a little bit more security. And you could see, especially with two main voting groups, women in Ontario and in British Columbia, and then with a lot of the pro-human rights, people that are concerned with what the ICJ calls a plausible genocide in Gaza, people that are concerned with other international issues. They're very concerned with what Poilievre has been talking, the way he's been talking about those, and they feel, at least although they are not really satisfied with Carney, they feel like he could be doing more, the Liberals could be doing more, but they view Poilievre's views as so right-wing and so extreme that it's going to make things a lot worse.
Can you break down what voter changes we're seeing in those specific groups?
Yeah, for sure. So just give me a second here.
Absolutely. I myself, as a woman, I do have to think when we see people or candidates who are saying things that maybe threaten your identity or threaten your safety, it's important to take those things into account when you are making your vote, because they do affect us deeply.
Yeah. So like I was discussing, people really were not pleased with the way Poilievre, this I think showed up a lot in our interviews as well, in these two groups. And then what happened was, because, normally, the Conservatives are polling at about 38-39%, I believe the latest numbers are. Normally, in any other election, that would be enough to win the election. But this time around, voters are very concentrated into two groups, Liberals and Conservatives. So this time around, while the Conservatives have 38%, 39%, not only are they not going to win a majority, they're not going to, the poll, according to the polling, they're saying that if it plays out the way it is, they're not going to win at all, period, right? Again, things could change. There are different factors that are involved. Some of them are conservative voters do tend to come out and they're not polled as well. So that could be a factor. Another thing is a lot of the NDP voters did have switched to Liberal. So they've really concentrated the Green, NDP, and Liberal voters into the Liberal Party. If those NDP voters decide or view that, you know what, the Liberals are going to win anyway, so I might as well vote NDP, that could also have an effect on the elections. But in general, this is why it's concentrated this way.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for that insight, and we will be right back after a short break.
Thank you for coming back. So we were just talking about the Conservatives and how, you know, they've dropped in the polls. And we were at one of the Poilievre rallies and we spoke to some of the voters. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Assalamu alaikum, I am Ahmed Ramadan for Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. We're here at the rally for Pierre Poilievre here in Vaughan, and we're going to speak to some people right now and get their opinions on what happened, what's going to take place. So what did you think of the event tonight?
I think the event was great. I was also at the Brampton one. It's always fantastic. The energy's amazing. It's so obvious that people want change. They're so sick of the liberals and the biased media and the lies and the corruption and all of it, and then the inflation, and oh my goodness, I can go on and on and on.
So what policies are you most looking forward to?
The immigration policy, I think we should cap it right now until we can get the housing going, right? We need the infrastructure. The criminal, like the crime, like how he wants to really get tough on crime and keep these people in jail because they keep getting out. They commit a crime and then they're out the next day, and then they commit a crime. And I know like several police officers, and they're all supporting the conservatives. They're so sick of this. They can't even do their job. There's so much like the streets are running wild. Like nobody's really doing anything about the misconduct and all the disrespect and the burning of the flag, and some of these people, like, you know, I'm not going to name whatever culture, but people don't feel safe here. And this isn't the Canada that I know or grew up in, and it's time for a change. We need to get, you know, our taxes down, which Pierre's going to do.
What are the policies that you guys are most looking forward to?
Well, for me, a lot of the big one is actually the scrapping of the internet censorship law, which is probably the worst thing the Liberals have done, even though they've pretty much destroyed the country. That's one more way to totalitarianism is that.
Now, how about you? Anything you're looking forward to?
The scrapping of the carbon tax and bringing home powerful paychecks again, and locking up the criminals behind bars.
All right, thanks guys, I appreciate it. So you're obviously conservative supporters. What are the policies you're most looking forward to?
Well, I'm really looking for financial changes, like the inflation needs to be addressed, the housing, the immigration, also the amount of government waste that goes to consultants and other things of the sort, the foreign aid as well.
What about you?
Yeah, I'd say my three biggest things, energy, so expanding the oil industry, immigration, and national defense.
All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That you drove down from Ottawa for this.
Yeah, so I actually drove from Ottawa, like you said, kind of the east end of Ottawa, so even more of a drive. I own a small business in Ottawa. I'm 23, so this election is kind of very, very important to me. We can't afford a home, we can't afford stuff. As a business owner, I've seen costs for my business increase almost threefold over the past about 6-7 years. So it's pretty harmful to our generation.
So that's quite the commitment to come down from Ottawa. You've kind of touched on it already, but what are the policies you're most looking forward to?
So the one I'm looking forward to the most is probably everyone relating to the crime. So I was actually been a victim of a few crimes myself. I've had a trailer stolen. I've had my partner been kind of harassed on the street, assaulted and stuff like that. Same as myself. So that's kind of one of the biggest ones, as well as the drug epidemic that's currently going on. Our borders are just porous. Everyone's pouring in, and there's just no handle on it. And of course, building more homes. We got to build so many more homes.
Well, thank you for taking the time to speak to us. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
nice to meet you.
So, Brother Ahmed, you were at the Conservative rally we saw there, and there's a demonstration for Palestine outside. Let's take a look at that.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Ahmed Ramadan for Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. As you can see outside of the rally for Pierre Poilievre, there has gathered Palestinian protesters who are very disturbed with some of the rhetoric that has come out from the Conservative Party.
I want to go to your country and we stand here with a heavy heart, burdened by the images, the sound, and the stories coming out of Gaza. It's gotta work. Go back to your country. Go back to your Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. There is only one solution. Intifada revolution. Intifada, intifada.
They have been here pretty much from the beginning till now, trying to raise awareness about what is taking place in Palestine and many of the concerns in the community, considering the diversity of Canada and what is taking place. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, that was, we saw the demonstrators outside, and they were there demonstrating. They're trying to raise awareness about what's taking place in Palestine. I think sometimes people, they watch a lot of the non-Muslim network news, TV, but, they more of the mainstream media, and they do not see how bad it is over there. And, it's not just me saying this, but every single mainstream human rights organization has made statements, whether they've called it apartheid, whether they've called it a genocide, whether they've called, different issues about it. So they're trying to raise awareness about this, and the other side tends to be very focused in a certain way. They feel that Canadian nationalism should overshadow everything else. But we've heard from many different people, and we'll hear from some analysts later on how what's taking place in Palestine actually affects us here.
And what was it like for you to be out there and to see that? Did it restore your hope in the future of this election and this country?
Yeah, I think in general, protesting, it takes somebody that's brave to do
Absolutely.
it, right? To believe in something and to go out there and make a stand. I think in general, protesting is very important. What makes Canada, Canada. And, I hope that nothing in the future happens that will limit people's speech and limit people's ability to protest what they believe in.
Yes, I'm with you on that one. Absolutely.
And actually, this is a very good segue into our next interview, which is with Impact member Shadi Yusuf, who had very good, very interesting takes on Palestine and how you can contribute this election cycle. Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan here at the Ridgeway Plaza for Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. I'm here with Impact member Shadi Yusuf. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us. So, Shadi, you're involved in the community. You're aware of, the sentiment that's going around. What is the issues that people care about this election cycle?
I think we all agree that the situation in Palestine is very critical at this point in time. And for me, this is the most pressing issue. We all owe our brothers and sisters in Gaza our support and our action. So I believe this should be our main topic this election.
So some people living in Canada, You know, they have this feeling that we live in Canada, we live in the West. What can we do? What do you say to them?
Well, I see first of all a tendency of our tendency to fall into inaction. So first of all, we need to start by acting. We need to realize that actions is what we are commanded to do. This is our duty to act. Outcomes are not in our hands. Outcomes are actually in Allah's Ta'ala hands only. So we need first to believe in that. Secondly, we are lucky here in the West where we have in Canada, we have different tools available to us. For example, we have the democratic process available to us. And during elections, our numbers actually hold more weight than normal times. So this is the perfect time for us to act.
So obviously Palestine is an important issue. What kind of weight do you subscribe to other issues that people care about, like cost of living and other certain elements of this election that people care about?
I'm sure there are other issues, and I'm sure they are all important issues. The economy is important, just like other issues. However, in a situation where we are witnessing a genocide, we're witnessing ethnic cleansing, I think our priorities should change. So Palestine should be our number one topic this elections, followed by Islamophobia, and then followed by the local topics like economy and stuff like that. I think at this point in time, we cannot afford to be selfish. We need to put that aside and act as a community together.
My last question to you is to our viewers. What is your message to them this election cycle? Not just this cycle, but once the elections are done.
Well, I think a question that many people are asking today is who to vote for. And again, we are lucky here. We have different initiatives from grassroots organizations and community organizations like Vote Palestine and Muslims Vote. I believe we need to stand behind these organizations. And my message to the community is a message of unity and action. So this election day, let's go out, let's vote, let's make our vote for Palestine.
Shadi, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
As Canadians head to the polls today, we're bringing you an analysis ahead of tonight's results. Joining us are two voices who have been closely following the issues alongside this election. Tabassum Mbain, Executive Director of the Muslim Advisory Council of Canada, and AQ Mufti, a respected community leader. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair for inviting us.
No, thank you for taking the time. I know this is a very critical time, important time. I know the community is very engaged and you're probably very busy. So we just had some questions for you to answer for us, for our viewers, so they can understand a little bit the landscape a little bit better. One of the first questions I want to ask is, you know, we've seen a liberal surge in the last month. In your view, is this more about voters embracing Carney, or is this more of them rejecting Pierre Poilievre?
That's a really good question. I don't particularly, have. I believe what we're seeing is that the past leader, on his last day in being in office, he basically said he's a Zionist, and that really turned the community off. So the Liberals knew that they had to bring somebody in to get back out there to ensure that our community would support them. Now, as a nonpartisan organization, I can't particularly tell you, who's leading in the polls and who we're supporting, but we will say that we've heard from the community and Palestine is a hot topic. But we are not a monolith, and we've heard from the community that the cost of living is really important to them, housing affordability is really important to them, and of course, Palestine is on, one of those recommended topics that they are, taking into consideration when they vote this election.
And in a race this close, where we see so many different personalities and approaches to the way of leading this country, does leadership style matter more than policy?
No, of course not. Leadership style is not more important than policy. I truly believe that each leader, it does matter who gets elected, but I will say that the Muslim community's work continues on even after the election. And that's why the Muslim Advisory Council of Canada exists, because we are at the table fighting for our community, ensuring that Islamophobia is eradicated, ensuring that anti-Palestinian racism is considered a form of racism in this country. And we will work day in and day out, as we have for the past 5 years, to ensure the Canadian Muslim voice is heard.
So, AQ Mufti, I wanted to ask you, Gaza and Palestine have become a major issue this election cycle. How much do you think this could impact the Muslim and progressive voters in key ridings?
I think it's a very burning question. Everybody knows that what's happening in Gaza, and those images that are coming from Gaza, it breaks everybody's heart. So I think it's a very, very sensitive issue, and it is impacting a lot in many of the writings. So I would say it's a major issue, one of the major issues that's going to impact the Muslim vote, especially. It should impact, actually, I would say, a greater Canadian vote as well. But obviously, the Muslims, are more concerned because, they get more of the information which is not readily available to wider media, actually.
So national polls are showing a liberal lead, but it is getting up there. The margins are tightening. So how important is vote efficiency tonight compared to raw numbers?
Oh, actually, I just was delivering a khutbah this past, Friday, and my topic was again about the importance of voting as well. And there are some misconceptions about in our Muslim community as well. Sometimes we do not participate. We do not even come out for voting. Historically, our voting has not been up to par on the voting day. So, which is so important, especially as we know. I live in Mississauga, and the Mississauga Aramills riding in the provincial election, the candidate lost just because of 20 votes. So every vote does count. So I actually, normally, try to coin easily terms which are very easy to understand. So I have coined this term which I normally relate to. From the DVD, I have coined this term as VVD. So these are three basic ingredients. If we do not follow one of them, then we cannot be successful as a community or as an individual. First, V stands for vote, and second stands for volunteer, and the D stands for donation. So volunteer, vote, and donate. So if we miss one of them, we will not be successful. So the voting is very key, important ingredient of this being successful as a community or as an individual member as well, if you want to be successful in this political process.
If I can add to that, the Canadian Muslim community makes up about 5% of our Canadian population. So we do have an opportunity to move the needle forward, particularly in ridings such as Milton, where there's actually a 30% population of Muslims here. We have an opportunity to ensure that an elected official, actually there's two elected officials that will be considered here for Milton East and Milton West. And it's imperative that the Canadian Muslim community take that seriously and get out and vote, because their voice matters and it can make a difference for our communities.
Yeah, actually, we've been discussing this during our broadcast. In Mississauga Center, it's about 20% of the riding is Muslim. In Mississauga Erin Mills, it's 25%. You're mentioning Milton, which is 30%. So we do make up big chunks of the voters in these different ridings, and these are key ridings for the Liberal Party. I wanted to ask, do you think these parties have truly addressed the concerns of Muslim people in general and of Muslim women specifically?
Absolutely not. We're seeing a rise of Islamophobia, and we cannot, slap on Band-Aid solutions, because we're seeing, as we just saw in Ramadan, a woman in an Ajax library, her hijab was almost set on fire. And again, just a few weeks ago, we saw a Muslim woman's hijab pulled off on the Ottawa Transit. So, these incidences keep occurring. Muslim women are at the forefront of being attacked, and our political leaders are literally putting out statements online and not doing anything about it. It is imperative that each level of government, particularly the federal government, impose policies with actionable steps behind them to protect our community. We're at a point now where our own community is stepping up and providing security to places of worship and to organizations such as ours. We just held an all candidates debate here in Milton, and we had to get our own security because of the threats against our organization and others in the community to ensure the safety of all. It's absolutely imperative that people speak up for Muslim hijabi women when they are being attacked. It is not okay for our community to be fearful, and it is not okay that they feel alone and targeted like this. It's high time that our community put Muslim women first, and that is why the Muslim Advisory Council of Canada exists, to advocate for Canadian Muslim women.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of these demonstrations, rallies for different, candidates, launch parties, and a few of these times we've seen actual, agitators show up and try to, instigate people that are just attending or demonstrators, but in a very aggressive way. And you really don't see any, pushback or protection like you're mentioning. Brother AQ, I wanted to see if you wanted to add anything to that answer.
Sorry, you're asking me because my line got dropped, so I don't know what happened. Sorry. Okay,
No,
it is me. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, if you wanted to add anything.
Sorry, I don't. I missed the part actually before I was dropped. But I guess that you're talking about protesters coming to the campaign offices, I believe.
No, I'm just okay. I could repeat the question for you.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
just wondering if you feel that the political parties have truly addressed the concerns of Muslim people in general, and specifically Muslim women.
Yeah, you see, I would say that I can't say for just for everyone equally. There are definitely candidates who have been very vocal, very supportive as well. I've been in touch with the Ikra Khalid, the Shafqat, the Salma. They've been very vocal. They even Shafqat and Salma went to Gaza as well. And obviously, Ikra, we know that she presented the Islamophobia motion. On the other side, I think there are emotions are high, as we have seen. There were some protesters coming to the Richie's office as well, and there were some concerns. But I think because of the issues are so critical, definitely there are people who would try to present their feelings. But then I've been talking to the candidates themselves, and they understand. They some of them maybe not very vocal, but they're truly understand that what is going on, and they are trying to support the community as well. So talking about, I don't want to name any party, but we know Polyvere especially, their stand is very clear. They even said that these protests are the hate protests and so on. So they are very clear on that. But talking about the Liberal and the NDP, they have at least a different stand on that.
I'm sorry. Can I intervene on that? Am I able to intervene on that? Because the Liberal Party has actually put in their party platform that they're going to criminalize individuals protesting at places of worship, and they've put in hospitals and schools as well. But they have also put in their platform that they will criminalize protesters outside places of worship. And our community is not just protesting for the heck of it. These synagogues and whatnot, they are holding real estate events to sell occupied land, which is illegal in Canada. However, our public safety sectors and our politicians aren't doing anything about it. So, I just want to make that clear that the Liberal Party has put that in their platform.
So, Tabassum, I wanted to ask you, and this is your comment actually leads into my question. Some people would say, we're in Canada. This is a Canadian election. Why does Palestine matter to Canadians here?
That's a phenomenal question. If the human rights of the Palestinians don't matter to our political leaders, what's to say tomorrow they're going to infringe upon yours and my rights, right? And we already see that through Bill 21. Our rights are already being infringed upon. And if we don't stand up for everybody's human rights, then we have a big problem. We have to make sure we're being fair and not just picking and choosing. Human rights, it's not a pie that you get to pick and choose whose human rights matter. Everybody's human rights matter, and that includes the lives of Muslims and the lives of Palestinians and anybody in this world whose rights are being infringed upon.
So, sorry, Aisha, I have one more question I want to ask you. I know you've been hanging on to your question for a minute there, but just to follow up on this, how much do you feel like the mainstream media's rhetoric on what is taking place. You're mentioning that demonstrators are not demonstrating outside of places of worship just for the sake of it. It's because they're doing something illegal under Canadian law. How much do you feel that, the media and maybe other, politicians have really disinformed the general public about why these are taking place? Would you care to comment on that?
We know that political leaders have led to the fuel of Islamophobia in this country, and now they're they're adding to the fuel of Palestinian racism as well. So yes, of course, there's a disinformation campaign. It's really imperative that people do a deep dive into these political party platforms, and they understand what's happening, because we get threats all the time for speaking up. But I will keep speaking up and ensuring my community is informed of what's happening so they can make an informed decision. And I'm not saying that the Conservatives are any better. They are even worse. But at the same time, what are our choices? And in Milton particularly, we have independent candidates running. And I think that's really imperative that we start looking at other options as well. I know today is the federal election, and it's going to be hard to sway the vote at this point. But it's really important that for future years, we understand what each party stands for, what the platform is, and if they will actually take actionable steps to end this genocide. Our whole goal as a community is to end this genocide. And I would hope that the community votes for candidates that have spoken out to end this genocide, inshallah.
Brother AQ, were you going to say something?
Yes, I think the connection is not very good. I'm not able to hear it completely. But I heard about the Milton riding. I just want to bring it up. You can hear us? Hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
If you can, yeah, okay. I'll continue. It's hard for me to hear you, but I will continue. I heard about the Milton riding. There was a Facebook post from one of our community members. It was a very highly edited video of Adam Vaughan, and it was saying that he has two faces and so on and so forth. Whereas then Adam Vaughan replied to that. He very clearly said that he believes in the genocide. He supports the Gaza cause and all those atrocities going on. It has to be stopped. He was very clear. So then I had to write that the who are posted that we should do actually our own research, and we should not burn the bridges, and especially for those who are supporting the cause. We should be very careful when we say something like that. So then he put down the video, and then he put up the original video where he was very clear that he does support the cause, he does support the genocide, and so on and so forth. So I think we should be also out of emotions, we should be very, very cognizant of the fact that we have to be very fair in when we put on those remarks in the social media, especially we should support those who are supporting your cause.
Yes, and to speak on Palestine as well, because Palestine is a very big deciding factor for many voters. So what message would you share with Muslims who are choosing maybe not to vote because of their concerns over Canada's support for Israel, the lack of political backing for Palestine?
I can jump in here. I would say, of course, Palestine is one issue, and it's a very important issue, but it's not the only issue impacting our Canadian Muslim community. Of course, we've heard that housing affordability, the cost of living is skyrocketing. It's really important that we have a leader, a prime minister who knows how to make change and who will get Canada where it needs to be, fiscally. So I truly believe that this needs to be at the forefront as well. And of course, the election is one day. The work really continues following the election. And we, at the Muslim Advisory Council of Canada, we will be at that table advocating for our community, inshallah.
Sorry again, my communication. Sorry, what is it? I hard to hear, but anyway, I just heard sister saying that. I agree with that. That Palestine is one of the top of the issues, but also as a Canadians, we also have other issues as well, and it should be a balanced approach. We are talking about the Trump's tariff war going on, and we are talking about the housing crisis, and we are talking about the jobs, especially with our, the younger generation, and there are so many other issues as well, the healthcare and so on. So I think it's just a total package that we need to focus as Canadians. Obviously, what's going on in Gaza is our, one of the very sensitive and top priority, but we have to see the whole package as well.
Yeah, I think this is very important. What both of you are saying is that at the end of the day, we live in Canada, we are Canadians, and the issues that are affecting all Canadians are affecting Muslims as well. So, we have concerns in all these areas. I think a lot of Muslims, however, see what is taking place in Palestine and maybe other areas, and, their heart goes out to them. But overall, we do need to look at, which party is going to be able to, or which candidate is going to be able to come through for all of our issues or the majority of our issues. And we need to have standards for that as well. I wanted to ask, this question maybe could be for Brother AQ. If you can hear me well, how much do you think that U.S. politics, Trump's trade threats and border policies, calling Canada the 51st state, has factored into this election? It looks like we've lost him. Sister Tabassum, if you've heard the question, maybe you could take that.
Yeah, I think people are really worried because the tariffs just mean that the cost of living is going to get more expensive for Canadians. So that is definitely being taken into consideration when people head to the polls. But it's not the only consideration, as we've already discussed. I think I just saw today that Trump, again said, oh, Canada would be better off becoming the 51st state. And absolutely not. We do not want that to happen. Canadians are, some of the best people in the world. Of course, we have a lot of issues in this country, but Canadians are wonderful and Canada is our home and we love Canada and we cannot see Canada become the 51st state.
I wanted to ask you, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I know you're nonpartisan, so I'm not telling you obviously to choose any particular party or candidate, but just as a strategy, whether it's strategic voting or voting your conscience, which one do you tell people to do?
100% voting your conscience. How can we stand in front of Allah and support anybody who had time to end the genocide and didn't do it? So vote with your conscience, because at the end of the day, we're Muslim and we have to stand in front of Allah and say, I tried my best. I could not support anybody who did not use every tool in their belt to end this genocide.
How do you think the idea of splitting the vote plays into this? If someone wants to vote for NDP because they think their values more aligned with that, but they think that'll just help the Conservatives pull up more. What do you think about that ideology?
Yeah, I think it's worrisome because we know there are certain parties who hold deeply seated anti-Muslim hate, and that shows in the rhetoric that they're posting online. So I would say check your riding stats, see who is most likely to win. If you vote a certain way, is your vote going to go to a party that could come into power that might hate Muslims? So I think there's a lot to consider here. And I believe that Canadian Muslims are informed and they're very smart and they'll make the right decision.
So this is obviously election day. Everybody's going out to vote, or they're voting now. Maybe they voted early voting last weekend. So my last question to you is, if you have a message to our viewers today, a final parting message for them, not just for this election and voting today, which I think, we've been discussing, and we've heard from a lot of different community leaders that we've spoken to, leaders of organizations, people that are volunteers in the community. Everybody's telling people, go and vote. This is your responsibility. But so I wanted you to comment on that, but not just that, but once the election is done today, what is the role of the Muslim community, of individual Muslims beyond the election?
I think that's a wonderful, a wonderful question. Of course, voting is super important. That is your right as a Canadian, but our work as a Canadian Muslim community does not just end at the ballot. We have to ensure that we're staying engaged. The MPs, the member of parliament, you're actually their boss. So by you voting for them, even if you don't vote for them, regardless of whoever comes into power in your particular riding, they are your voice in Ottawa. And we need to ensure that our community's voice is in Ottawa and not just Ottawa's voice in wherever we live, right? So it's really important to stay engaged, stay informed, contact your MP. If you don't understand something, have a conversation with them. They're responsible for informing their community of what they're doing and what's happening. It is imperative that our community stay engaged, because this is the time where our community can move the needle forward. And of course, my message to the community is stay informed, but also, support organizations like the Muslim Advisory Council of Canada and others who are advocating day in and day out for our communities to ensure, the Canadian Muslim community voice is always at the table. We will not stop fighting for our community. People will try to keep silencing us, but we are always stronger together. And our hope is that the community continues to support organizations like ours, inshallah.
Tabassum, thank you so much for taking the time.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Have a good day.
All right, now we're going to move on to highlights from Adam Vancoverdin and Nadeem Akbar's interviews.
I went to the Beijing Olympics 2008. I carried the flag at the opening ceremonies of those games, so lots of great memories from there. I don't think we can take it for granted that Canada's the best country in the world to live in and to work in and to raise a family in. That requires work every day. I think Trump is the thing that comes up most frequently, is concerns around the rhetoric around the annexation of our country. Well, the number one thing that the Liberals can offer in this election is by far the best leader. So Mark Carney is an economist. He's a battle-tested financial crisis manager. Personally, I've worked in Gaza. I've been to Palestine. I've been to Rafah and Gaza and throughout the territory. So I've gained a little bit of experience on, what it's like there.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan for Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. I'm standing here with MP Adam Vancouverton, who is seeking his third re-election. Adam, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is nice.
So, you're a gold medalist. You've been at the Olympics. You have 4 medals. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Sport is kayaking. I went to my first Olympics in 2004. It's like a long time ago now, more than 20 years. I won a gold and a bronze medal in Athens in 2004. And I went to the Beijing Olympics 2008. I carried the flag at the opening ceremonies of those games, so lots of great memories from there. I went to the London Olympics where I got this jacket in 2012, got a silver medal there. And my 4th Olympics was in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and didn't get a medal there. I got the second fastest time of the day, but managed to come in 9th, and had a really good final race that was satisfying for different reasons other than the shiny medal. Had to come home with a participation medal in that one.
Still very impressive. So from the Olympics to politics, what brought you into politics?
Well, I love Canada. Like a lot of people in Canada, my parents are both immigrants. I owe everything I have and everything I am to this country. Wanted to give back, wanted to serve a community, and wanted to continue to build Canada. This is a young nation. There's a lot of work to do. I don't think we can take it for granted that Canada's the best country in the world to live in and to work in and to raise a family in. That requires work every day. And I want to lay those bricks for a better foundation for our great country every day. And, the best way to do that is to serve at the federal level and in a government that is getting the work done for Canadians. So that was my ambition back in 2018 when I quit my job at Deloitte and decided that I wanted to get my name on the ballot. And now that I'm running my 3rd election here in Milton, new riding called Burlington North, Milton West, it continues to be the same goal.
So you've been MP for 2 terms already. This is your 3rd re-election campaign. You've been speaking a lot to the community. Obviously, you've been knocking on doors. What are the concerns? What are the issues that the constituency are concerned about?
So I've knocked on about 3,500 doors in my last count in the last couple of weeks, and had tons of conversations. Today, I knocked on doors all in the country, like out in Moffat, in Campbellville, and in North Burlington. And I'd say that the community has various concerns, not all just one. depends on who you talk to. I think Trump is the thing that comes up most frequently is concerns around the rhetoric around the annexation of our country. The 51st state stuff really bothers folks, and that's a very scary thing for me too. You know, we really pride ourselves on being uniquely Canadian, and one of the best things about being Canadian is that we're not American. So we've got to, stand up for ourselves, make sure that we're fighting back against those types of threats. But then there's also direct threats on our economy. But certainly global affairs and geopolitics come up at the doors frequently as well. But a lot of local things. So, there's a plethora of issues that people bring to me. And I always say that when we're at the doors, we're learning about the community, we're gaining insight and perspective on the challenges that people are faced with. And that's where you really tend to come to understand your community the best.
So what do you feel like the Liberals have to offer a lot of these issues that they're concerned about?
Well, the number one thing that the Liberals can offer in this election is by far the best leader. So Mark Carney is an economist. He's a battle-tested financial crisis manager. He has a PhD from Oxford. He went to Harvard. He's a bank governor of the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada. He's gotten big economies through crises before, and this crisis also requires expertise. His plan is already materializing in better outcomes for Canadians. You can see that Donald Trump has started to refer to our Prime Minister as a Prime Minister, which is a good start. But we've got a plan that will keep Canada strong. It'll help us fight back against all these tariffs and these threats against our economy. But the best thing about the Liberal Party is that we're a Big Ten party. We're the party with the most diversity. We're the party with the most diversity of opinions and backgrounds, which is, I think, really important. But the Liberal Party, when you look at the benches, really looks like Canada, from a multi-ethnic perspective, gender balance, but also in terms of background. We've got lawyers, we've got police officers, we've got athletes, we've got doctors, we've got nurses, we've got people that have worked in every single background. We've got farmers, we've got people who have worked in manufacturing, and those perspectives in one room together is very, very powerful. And it's important that we make sure that we maintain all those connections and relationships with all Canadians and ensure that we're meeting the moment for everybody in Canada.
So you mentioned the diversity of Canada, and I know Milton is a very diverse community. There was actually, I'm not sure if you probably are, there was 32 Eid prayers that took place just in Milton from the Muslim community. And the Muslim community, I think, and human rights people in general are concerned about what's taking place in Gaza and Palestine. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think Canada's role should be when it comes to this?
Well, Canada's got a strong role to play in peace building around the world. We've always had that. We're an influential voice at the United Nations, and Canada's always been a country that brings people together, demonstrates that peace is possible, demonstrates what's possible when you're willing to collaborate, sit down, be calm and diplomatic. So I think that's one of our roles. Personally, I've worked in Gaza. I've been to Palestine. I've been to Rafah and Gaza and throughout the territory. So I've gained a little bit of experience on what it's like there and what the challenges are and why it's so important that we stand up for human rights and for peace. But Canada's got a very strong role to play. We've already dedicated over $100 million just recently in aid for Palestinians. We've continued to call for a ceasefire, and we've continued to reject the notion that this is just business as usual. It's not business as usual. The violence needs to stop, and we need both sides to stop fighting and to just release the hostages and stop the fighting and really get back to the business of rebuilding.
So that was Adam Van Couverton for Milton North, Burlington West. Actually, Burlington North, Milton West. He's the Liberal candidate. We're going to now go to Nadeem Akbar, who is the Conservative candidate for the same riding, Burlington North, Milton West. All right, we are here with MP candidate Nadeem Akbar, and I wanted to ask you, this is the launch of your campaign here. We saw the mayor, we saw the MPP here. How does that make you feel to see that support?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming, and thank you doing this for me. And the energy is there. You can see there were a lot of support, a lot of people were here. They came from Burlington North, Milton area, and everybody was excited. Everybody's here to support. And this is amazing. I'm so happy and so glad.
Now, you said I heard in your speech you've knocked on 100,000 doors. What are some of the issues that you see the voters are concerned about?
The majority of the issues we're seeing, people talk about the housing, people talk about the job, people talk about the recession, people talk about the immigration policies, like you name anything. People are really suffering and they want change. They cannot give another 9, 10 years, 4 years to these liberal, reckless policies. They want change. They want some common sense decision. And this is what people have been saying. This is what people want here.
And why have you chosen to run in the Conservative Party?
I've been conservative a long time. I joined conservative back in 2006, 2007. I've been involved in the party, have done a lot of work in the party, been to many conventions, have tremendous amount of support from the community and from the. I was just working with the community, working as a bridge, taking the leadership to the community, to the people involved locally and other areas also. And one of the reasons I am working with them is that they make the common sense decision, and they work for the people, they work with people, not the other way around, and they want to bring some common sense. That is the reason I'm helping them and I'm running for it.
Now, we all know we've heard the general position of the party on Gaza and Palestine, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to share your perspective on the situation and where you stand on that.
Look, there are so many issues, especially, alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim, and my role is that to keep on talking with the people and the leadership team to let them know how the local and the people around in the Muslim community, what are they thinking, what are their issues, how they're looking into those issues. And my job is to connect the leadership with the people, with the local people, and that is what I will be doing, and that is what I have done, and I will be inshallah doing again. It's an advocacy. It's the taking the issues from common people to the leadership team.
And that concludes our noon election coverage with GTA Muslims Today. We'll return with even more news, interviews, and analysis. Tune in at 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. with live results and reactions. Brother Ahmed, it was a pleasure working with you today.
The pleasure is mine. It was really fun.
We had a great time. Thank you all so much. Assalamu alaikum, and we'll see you at our next segment.